Tonight, joining us now live from our nation's capital with exclusive reaction are two men most talked about. They're the most talked about guys in D.C. at the moment, Senator Ted Cruz and Mike Lee. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Sean.
Great to be with you, Sean.
All right, so the bottom line is, assuming the House votes the way we think they're going to vote, we'll know within the next 10 minutes, premiums for people will skyrocket. We know that jobs are going to be lost, part-time status for people that want to work more hours, that's going to be gone, and we got this train wreck of a rollout. What's your reaction, Senator Cruz?
Well, this is a lousy deal for the American people. This is sadly a classic instance of the Washington establishment selling the American people down the river. This deal does nothing for the millions of people who are hurting because of Obamacare. For all the young people coming out of school right now who can't find a job because of Obamacare, this deal does nothing. For all the single moms being forced into part-time work, trying to feed their kids on 29 hours a week, this deal does nothing. For all of the seniors and people with disabilities right now being told, getting letters in the mail that they're losing their health insurance, this deal does nothing. It is an unfortunate instance of the Washington establishment once again not listening to the American people.
Senator, you know, I know you were on Mark Levin's show earlier. You used the term, really, the people that sabotage this were your fellow Republicans, John McCain, Bob Corker, and others. What is your reaction to them tonight?
Well, it was unfortunate how this played out. I mean, the last 2 months, and it's worth for everyone watching this to have a word of encouragement. What we've seen over the last 2 months has been incredible. We saw millions of Americans come together. Over 2 million Americans sign a national petition at don'tfundit.com, light up the phones here at the Capitol. We saw the House of Representatives stand strong, listen to the people, and stand strong against Obamacare. And sadly, as you just noted, what we then saw was Senate Republicans not unite but be divided. If Senate Republicans had united and supported House Republicans, supported the American people, we could have had a very different outcome. But instead, Senate Republicans divided and, in fact, actively and aggressively attacked House Republicans, attacked the effort to defund Obamacare, and that's what led to the lousy deal we had tonight.
You agree with that, Senator Lee?
Yeah, it's a missed opportunity. I think if we had stayed united as a party, if we had stood behind the House Republican Conference, which fought quite nobly in order to keep vital aspects of the government funded, in order to keep veterans programs funded, and to keep our national parks open, I think we could have made more progress. So it was an important missed opportunity. But again, we've got to emphasize the fact that this is really just the end of the beginning. This is a fight that's going to continue. You know, when a publication like the Chicago Tribune, the president's hometown newspaper, has come out and said that, like us, they believe that we should have a one-year timeout on Obamacare, that this law is not ready to be implemented. You know something's wrong. And we're going to continue to see more data points like these telling us, telling the administration that the American people are not ready for this law because this law is harming people.
So is it a fair assessment from both of you that the real, if there's any winners and losers, the real losers are the American people tonight because nothing in this Obamacare law is as it was sold to them, promised to them? There's no savings. It's more expensive. Doctor choices are going to be limited. Jobs are being lost. Is there a loser here, the American people?
Yes, in overwhelming numbers, and it's tragic. You know, it's tragic whenever you hear about any of these stories. It's especially tragic to those people who have actually lost jobs or seen their health care premiums skyrocket, or people who have had their wages cut or their hours slashed. And we're going to see more and more of these come out in the coming months as we get closer and closer to this January 1st full implementation date. And this is a tragedy that we tried to avoid, a tragedy that I still hope we can find a way to avoid. But unfortunately, today's decision will make that more likely, that more people will suffer as a result of this law.
All right, we bring back Senator Ted Cruz and Senator Mike Lee and get some of their reaction. You know, Kelly Ayotte, along with Lindsey Graham and a lot of others that were opposing you, your fellow Republican senators, Senator Cruz said, oh, you know, we agree with Senator Cruz in our opposition to Obamacare. This is a tactical difference. Did they ever explain their strategy to get to the point of standing up against this law? Senator Cruz, did you ever get a full explanation?
Well, unfortunately, there wasn't any other tactic that any of our colleagues suggested. And indeed, in the midst of this fight, there remained, right up until the end, an opportunity for a compromise, for something that perhaps would have been short of defund, which is what Mike and I have been fighting for, but something that would have provided real relief to the millions of Americans who are hurting under Obamacare. And the problem was that we did not have others in the conference coming forward supporting those compromises. You know, if you think about it, the House Republicans marched into battle. They exercised tremendous leadership, tremendous courage, and it should have been the Senate Republicans riding like the cavalry to support them. If the Senate Republicans had stood united with the House Republicans, that's how we would have won this fight. Instead, unfortunately, the Senate Republicans were divided and became basically an air force, dive bombing the House Republicans and conservatives. And once that happened, there was no way to hold the line with the American people and to actually achieve meaningful relief from all the harms coming from Obamacare.
What was going on behind the scenes, Senator Lee? I heard there were a lot of conferences among you and your colleagues and a lot of harsh words exchanged during those different private conferences. I have my spies in these meetings every time. What was going on behind the scenes?
It wasn't always pretty, and it's not always pretty. This is the way things work here sometimes. We don't always agree. And so sometimes tempers flared, and people said things that I suspect they might have regretted later. The important thing, though, moving forward, Sean, is that we unite behind the effort to expose the flaws in this law. To expose the fact that these are not mere glitches. This goes far beyond the website. This law is fundamentally unsound, and it's causing people to lose their jobs, and it's causing health care to become less affordable, not more. And so moving forward, I want to unite the conference as best we can around the idea that Obamacare is bad and it's got to be stopped.
Yeah. How are you going to get consensus with somebody like John McCain? I mean, John McCain seems to me that he was, Harry Reid was holding him up in the middle, Senator Cruz, of your 21-hour, 19-minute filibuster and asking you if you'd give 15 minutes to John McCain because John McCain wanted to excoriate you on behalf of Harry Reid. How do you reconcile that?
Well, listen, Sean, John McCain is someone whom I like and respect. He is a man of enormous courage and patriotism. He suffered for our country. You'd be surprised to know that just a couple of weeks ago. You
like his treatment of you here, calling you wacko bird and lashing out at you in these private meetings?
Listen, at the end of the day, the old saying is politics ain't beanbag. And fortunately, neither Mike nor I have thin skins. And it doesn't really matter, politicians bickering back and forth. Whatever others choose to say, I don't intend to reciprocate. I haven't and I won't. And the real focus, the reason we were fighting this fight, is there are people all over this country that are hurting. There are people right now who are picking up a letter from their insurance company and discovering that the insurance that they're relying on to provide their family vital health care is being taken away. I just heard a story today about a family of missionaries who homeschool their kids who got a letter just recently saying their insurance was being cut because of Obamacare, and they're actually praying and talking about giving up the mission field and going to get jobs because they've got to provide health care for their kids. That's happening all over the country. That's the reason we were fighting, and it's ultimately the reason we're going to win, because this thing isn't working, and the American people understand that.
Well, I think the thing moving forward, and Senator Lee, I'll ask you this question, is that I suspect, and tell me if I'm wrong, that you and your colleague there, Ted Cruz, and Rand Paul, and Marco Rubio is going to join us later. He was in this fight with you guys. I suspect that you guys aren't going away, are you?
No, we're not going away, and neither are the many millions of Americans who have joined this dialogue, who have made their voices heard by Washington, D.C. Not only are we not going anywhere, but they aren't either, and their numbers are growing because more people are hurting as a result of this law every single day. And as they continue to call in and ask for help, we're going to continue to do everything we can to help them. And the way that we can help them is to stop this law, to stop its implementation and enforcement. It's the whole reason why we got involved in this fight a few months ago. When we saw what was happening with this law, and we saw that the president wasn't going to follow it. The president himself isn't following the law. We're not going to fund it. And that's what we said then, and that's what we still think we should do.
All right, well, we kick the can down the road, Senator. Where do we go from here? Senator Cruz?
Well, I think there is reason to take heart and to be encouraged. Look, this deal was a lousy deal, but if you look at what was accomplished a couple of months ago, the Washington establishment scoffed at the idea that the American people would rise up in overwhelming numbers. The Washington establishment scoffed at the idea that the House of Representatives would stand strong against Obamacare. And what we've seen in the last 2 months has been incredible. Millions of Americans standing up. And we didn't win this battle because, look, no one should be surprised when you're taking on the Washington establishment. The establishment fights back, and this was going to be a multi-stage, extended battle. but we've also seen a model that I think is the model going forward to defeat Obamacare, to bring back jobs, economic growth, to abolish the IRS, to rein in out-of-control spending, and that model is empowering the American people. I remain inspired because the people all over this country who rose up and made D.C. listen, the House of Representatives listened, and I'm confident in time the United States Senate will as well.
I think there's going to be a loud reaction to, I think there's going to be a close look at the votes that took place, especially on the Senate side on this. It seemed like Thursday of last week, Senator Lee, that you had, what, 13% of the American people think this country's on the right track. The president had his lowest approval number ever, 37%. And, of course, the polls on Obamacare, the American people didn't want. It seems like you guys had a lot of momentum there until... What went wrong at that point?
Well, at that point, again, we had a lot of Republicans who didn't like this effort and who, for whatever reason, didn't want us to succeed. And so they fought against it every time they got the chance. I think that's really unfortunate. I do think the fact that people have this much antipathy toward this law, the fact that the president's approval ratings are at an all-time low, signals something. It signals the fact that they understand the federal government's already too big and too expensive, and we shouldn't be allowing it to intrude into ever more personal aspects of our lives, like our health care. So I think this was a really big opportunity, and I think it's sad that we missed that opportunity. But we've got to look forward and find ways to take advantage of opportunities as they will come to us in the next few months as this law continues to be implemented and as it continues to harm people. We're going to do everything we can to protect the people.
Senator Lee, Senator Cruz, good to see you both. Thank you both for being with us. I look forward to this fight continuing in 90 short days from now as we'll reboot and we'll see where it goes. Thank you both. That's the whole thing about this. We're kicking the can down the road.